Hello, welcome to Kelly's Coffee and Crime Chat. I am back. This is your May 2nd episode. This will be up early for Patreon and Spotify Premium subscribers on Wednesday the 30th. And I just got my stitches out on my left wrist. Hand. I just had carpal tunnel surgery. Both hands were done in April, and that's why I had to take a break. So it really bothered me to type when I was doing my notes. So I was not able to do much with the podcast. So I went ahead and held the billing for Patreon because Patreon gives you the option to do that. I don't know how to do that for Spotify Premium, but I don't have any members in that one. But Patreon is nice because if I don't upload my regular at least 2 bonus episodes a month, at least 2, I usually do 3. But if I don't at least do 2, I hold off on the billing for that month. So that's why I went ahead and did that on April, because I was not able to do anything with my wrists being in stitches. Like I had one for 2 weeks and then the other one for the last 2 weeks of April. And today is retirement day, as I am now going to have more time, I hope. I know I want to do some volunteering for the animal shelters, and I want to, I'm going to be doing some other things, but it's wonderful to be able to have more time. So I can I don't have a schedule, so I can just do these anytime I want, But anyway, everything's great. I am drinking Java Mama Tiki Torch. Tiki Torch was one of the Mama's picks last summer, and it is still good. I don't think these coffees ever expire. It is very good. It's not flavored, but man, it's good. It's a single origin Colombian coffee. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it's got a nice bold taste, but it's not overbearingly. It's never bitter. Java Mama's never bitter. Very good. So I am going to tell the case of Stephen Small, and some people probably heard of this. It is actually just so sad. But let's see, my sources are Wikipedia, CBSnews.com, and ID's series Murder is Forever. And I'm going to talk more about that at the end, because that's where I first heard about this. Stephen Small was born March 18th, 1947. He was raised in Kankakee, Illinois, to parents Burrell and Reva, I don't know if it's Reva or Reva, Small. They owned Mid-America Media, and that was a media empire. And they also owned a part of the United Press International, and that is where Stephen worked. Illinois Governor Len Small was his grandfather. Stephen got his education at Lake Forest Academy and the University of Denver and Mark Hopkins College. So he had a lot of education. A lot of things going for him. He married a woman named Nancy Peterson in 1969, and they had 3 sons. Now, there's going to be 2 Nancys in this story. So I'm going to every time I do it, I'm definitely going to try to remember to do the last names of all of them. But right now, we don't know the second one yet. So we're just talking about Nancy Peterson, Stephen Small's wife. Nancy Small. On September 2nd, 1987, Stephen got a phone call, 12:30 at night. Him and his wife Nancy were sleeping. The phone woke him up, and the person on the other end of the line said he was a police officer, and there was some property that Stephen owned, and it was under renovation. It was the B. Harley Bradley house, and it had been broken into. Stephen got up and left to go look into it, and Nancy then got a call at 3:30 a.m. Someone said they had Stephen. That's what the voice said on the phone. She heard Stephen's voice saying that he was in a box, handcuffed, and that she had to get $1 million cash to the caller. Also, no police were to be contacted, but Nancy called them anyway. They set up recording devices to record their incoming calls. I would have called the police too, by the way. I mean, you're not going to get anywhere by not calling them. Really, you're not. When you think about it, they might threaten, but you're not going to get anywhere if you don't call them. You may as well call them, because they could get away with it. You know what I mean? It's just, so a call from Phillips 66 gas station in Aroma Park came in just after 5 o'clock p.m. that evening. Nancy Small answered it, and they asked how much money she had gotten so far. At 5:40, Stephen's Aunt Jean called to tell Nancy about a call she got. The caller said he knew Nancy's phone was tapped and that Stephen was buried, and he threatened to kill him on the phone to Jean. Nancy Small got another call at 11:28 that night. So now we're like 24 hours and almost. And it was from a Sunoco station in Aroma Park. Stephen's voice came on, explaining the instructions where to drop the ransom money. Now, I got to make a note on this because there is something with that. And I wanted to make sure that I had it written down right here. So she's hearing Stephen's voice on the phone. So, sorry about that. I just had to make a note there. So he told her where to drop the ransom money. Now, an FBI agent saw a white guy at a telephone booth and a blonde woman in the car. So she was in a car in the passenger side. I'm pretty sure it was passenger side. And he was in the phone booth because, of course, he was driving. And there's a reason for that. The reason I know that. But he was identified as Danny Edwards, and the woman was Nancy Risch. So this is the second Nancy, and she was Danny's girlfriend. Witnesses also said 2 people matching the couple's descriptions were seen at the Phillips 66 station earlier that evening, and that was when the first call came in. At 11:46 that night, Nancy got another call from a Marathon station in Kankakee. They said they knew that Nancy called the police and refused her offer of ransom. So they're like, nope, I don't want your ransom. You call the police. About 4 minutes later, an officer saw Nancy Risch's car driving from Kankakee to Aroma Park with the trunk slightly open. Law enforcement put Danny's house in Bourbonnais. I don't know how to say this town. Bourbonnais. I've seen it many times, but I have no idea how to say it. So they put his house under surveillance, and they saw a dark-colored Buick with the trunk slightly open arrive at the house. Danny and a blonde woman got out and went inside the house. The next morning, September 3rd, because it was all this took place, the first part of this all took place on September 2nd, because he got the phone call at 12:30 a.m. So it was the night of the first, the morning of the second. So the next morning, September 3rd, Danny Edwards and Nancy Risch were arrested. Danny took officers to the area where Stephen Small was buried. They found a 3x6 plywood box. Stephen Small was inside, along with a car battery, a jug of water, candy bars, gum, and a flashlight. They also put a pipe inside for Stephen to breathe, and it looked to me more like a tube when I saw the series on ID, but that was reenactment. But that's what it looked like to me, like it was a tube, and I read here that it was a pipe. But either way, it was way too long to work as an air system. It was way too long. I think I had read one time where it had gotten clogged or something had happened to where there was no way that that would help you breathe from under the ground. Stephen died from asphyxiation caused by suffocation. He would not have survived more than 3 or 4 hours inside that box. So when Nancy, his wife, heard his voice, that was a recording. That was what I had to write down. That was a recording of his voice. They recorded him saying it before they buried him. So when they searched Danny's home, they found a Kankakee phone book with the name Small circled. And a lot of people have heard of phone books that are, a lot younger now, where they don't have phone books anymore. But back then they would have them for big town. Even big towns would get their own. But because, man, Peoria's was like really thick. I remember that. It was like a big, thick phone book. But I don't know exactly how thick Kankakee's was. But that's where they found that he had the name circled. Danny's soiled boots were behind the washer and dryer, and the soil on the boots matched the same dirt that was in the area where the box was found. The soil was also in his van. His fingerprints were all over the duct tape and pipe found in the box. During the trial, there was a neighbor who, on the night of September 2nd, heard Danny say, "Let's go, let's hit it," around midnight before leaving in his car. Another neighbor saw Danny's van and a car drive off with their lights off after hearing 2 doors slam. So there's 2 doors slamming and 2 vehicles. So that basically tells them 1 person per vehicle. Also, some people saw Danny building the box in the summer of 1987 in his garage. He told people it was going to be a lemonade stand to have at his brother's pool in Florida. So, he would have friends come over and that, "Oh yeah, he's out building something in the garage," and they go out there and it's like he's building this box. So, another witness saw Danny's van driving through an alley by the small home about 10 times that summer. So, he was driving by Stephen Small's home 10 times that summer. And then Danny and Nancy Risch would visit a boat store. And they saw Stephen Small leave the store in a sports car. And someone had heard Danny say, "Boy, it would sure be nice to afford stuff like that." Well, yeah, it would. I mean, but he had to just point it out, I guess. A guy Danny knew had handcuffs that were stolen from him. And these were same cuffs found on Stephen Small. So it was a friend of Danny's, and I don't know how he had handcuffs, but he was over there, I guess, at his house and stole handcuffs. So Danny Edwards was found guilty of first-degree murder and kidnapping. And it was aggravated kidnapping. I got kidnapping written down, but aggravated kidnapping. He was sentenced to death. Nancy Risch got her own attorney, but get this, she had no idea he was friends with Stephen Smalls. Police believed she had knowledge of the kidnapping and ransom plan, even though she said she did not know Danny was doing it. She was charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping for her role in Stephen's death. Her trial was a month later, November 1988. There was no evidence directly linking her to the crime, but her statements were inconsistent during her questioning. I never found out what statements were inconsistent, but I think it was like 6 of them. 6 or 8, I think, that I read that were inconsistent, but I never found out what they were. Plus, witnesses saw her with Danny when he bought the items that were found in the box with Stephen. And she was in the car when he made the ransom calls. She was found guilty on murder and kidnapping, aggravated kidnapping, and sentenced to life in prison. Now, I remember when this happened. George Ryan, former Illinois governor, commuted all death row sentences to life in prison on January 11th, 2003. And this happened right before his term ended. He was also Stephen Small's neighbor and a great friend of Stephen, and I had no idea about that. And he also knew Danny Edwards' family. So he knew all these people. Nancy Risch was paroled in February of 2022. She claimed abuse from Danny, and her 8-year-old son's life was also threatened by Danny. She had no prior knowledge of Danny's plans and felt terrible about Stephen Small and his family. Now, I think what happened, and I do believe her side of it, because I think when he went to the payphones and she was still in the car, she didn't know, he told her she was, the story I heard was that he owed money to some drug dealers. And that's why he had to get this ransom money to pay back. And then I heard another version of this, that he needed money because he wouldn't work and his parents were giving him money and they were going to cut him off. So when I saw this, the Murder is Forever was on ID, and it was the James Patterson special where they had all these different, every episode was 2 hours and there were 2 true crime stories told. And I loved that. And it was only on for a short time. And I don't know if there was any more, but I would love for some of those to come back, because that's where I first heard about this. It was on February 19th of 2018. And this is also the same show where I first heard about Gypsy Rose Blanchard. So that was the very first time I ever heard of that one too. And I know that they fictionalized these a little bit, because that series, that show episode of the Smalls case was called Murder Beyond the Grave. And it showed that, it basically told that Danny was trying to get money so that Nancy Risch could keep her son, because she was going to lose her son or something. I don't know. It had something to do with that in the show. And I think that wasn't it. It was either drug dealers. And I think she told him, or he told her, I got to make this call to this drug dealer and I'll be back. I got to get the money. I got to somehow get, I don't know, something. I don't know what he told her. But he told her some story as to why he was using the phone. And I do believe that. I have looked up so many things on her, and I do not see where she knew about it. People say she did. I don't know. It's very doubtful that she did, in my opinion. But that was the only show I think I had written down that I found out where they featured this. And it was very sad. It was very sad, because I remember when I was watching that show, I'm like, is he going to live? Is he going to live? And no. And here he had a pipe put in there so he can breathe. I really don't think he meant to kill him, but he did. That's why it surprises me he got first-degree murder. But you know what? When you bury somebody in a box, really, you got to be, something's got to tell you that this guy's probably not going to survive. But I am really surprised that they did give him first-degree murder and death penalty. But you know what? They did. But our former governor had it commuted to life. So I don't really agree with that myself. That's just my opinion. Now, Nancy Risch, I could see her getting a life sentence, or like I said, I don't believe she knew about it, so her getting out is what on parole really didn't bother me at all when I read that. So anyway, that is the story of Stephen Small. Very, very sad story. Very sad story. Just to think that somebody woke you up in the middle of the night saying that one of your properties had been broken into and that they were a police officer, and you go, and I think from my recollection, I don't think his wife wanted him to leave. It's like, can't they just take care of it? And he's like, no, I want to go see what's going on and what happened. Impersonating a police officer is also against the law. So he had a lot of other things that he did that is just such a sad case. What gets me out of every time I do one of these cases, these people actually think they're going to get away with this. And this was in the 80s. This was before like DNA and cell phone. They were thinking they were going to get away. I'm pretty sure he thought he was going to get away with it. It's like, what are you doing? Oh my gosh, it's just so sad. And then driving by the house 10 times, that's like stalking almost, or, keeping tabs on somebody. But I am glad to be back. If anybody has any suggestions, please let me know, as I am really trying to find some good cases I haven't done, and cases that are not well known. But like I said, if anybody has any suggestions, please let me know. My Patreon is always $5. You could pay $5 and listen to over 100 episodes I got on there now. Because, yeah, we're coming up to we're over 2 years that I've had that's amazing to me that I've had my Patreon. And I cannot believe, again, that I'm actually retired after almost 32 years of working for the Postal Service. So I'm so happy. Wow. Amazing. Okay. So I'm just so excited. But I'm trying to think of what all I've watched since I've been home. I know I've watched some things because I've talked about it. I am watching this. I'd watched the series Happy Face, and it's actually really, really good. And then the last episode I watched was number 7, and my brother told me that was the end of it. And I'm like, this can't be the end. 7 episodes, and this is how it ends. And he said, well, there'll be another season. And I'm like, sometimes I don't know about him. I don't know if he's right with what he's saying. So I'm going to wait to see if there's a new one next week. Because this one ended. Oh my gosh. It's like, please don't tell me it's ending like this. But it got very interesting there with this last episode. And then I watched Great American Family on Hulu, which is about Natalia Grace. That is actually really good. Very sad. It's very sad now because you're seeing her trying to fend for herself in her apartment. And my gosh, it's just sad. So sad to watch that. But this show is pretty good. So I watched that. I watched on Peacock, we got Poker Face coming back on the 8th of May, and I am so excited for that, for the second season of that. The first season was awesome. And then I watched the Milli Vanilli movie, Girl, You Know It's True, and that was very good. Some of it is subtitled because they're talking in German at the beginning of it, but most of it is in English. And it was filmed over here in LA and also in Germany. So, very good. Oh my gosh, it was so good. It was so sad. I mean, sad, not like crying sad. It was just sad. It really kind of got to me because I remember that time and I remember when all that happened. But very interesting how that scandal, as far as that went, very interesting. Trying to think of what else I've watched. Any other movies? I watched a movie named Ma with Octavia Spencer. Has anybody ever seen that? I've never heard of it. I actually thought it was pretty good. Wow. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit here and watch this. This looks like kind of would be something I would like. And boy, it was. I'm not going to give anything away if you haven't seen it, but I think I watched that one on Netflix. So I've been trying to do some Netflixing and some other things. I couldn't craft very long with my hands, especially with my right hand when my right hand had stitches in it because it hurt to use scissors. But then I was able to, take breaks and stuff. So everything's going okay now, though. I'm so happy to get my stitches out, and I'm on my way to healing, and I'm so happy to be home and not have a schedule. So thank you, everybody, for your support and your reviews and rating the show on Patreon or on Spotify. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for everything. And like I said, if you have any suggestions, I always leave my email in the show notes and my Instagram and everything. So you can contact me if you have any suggestions. And I'm now doing my episodes. I'm still doing them once every 2 weeks. So, like I said, I wish I had more cases I could find that are around the Midwest and aren't very well known. That's usually what I look for. I mean, I would do more known cases if they were ones that really, really needed attention. So, anyway, have a wonderful May. And hopefully you have wonderful weather where you're at. And stay safe, everybody. And I will see you next time.